I was born to a very poor family who had just been released from Minidoka, Idaho, the internment camp that was located there. So they returned to the inner city of Seattle with virtually nothing. But, they had we had a lot of shared values. And, one of them was a work ethic. And when I was born, there were 6 of us, plus a lot of cockroaches living in this tenement. We didn't even have our own bathroom, so we had to walk down the hall to use a community bathroom. But my parents, they were pretty thrifty. They saved their pennies and eventually had enough money to put a down payment on a very small house down in Rainier Valley. After I graduated with my undergraduate and graduate degrees, I ended up in actually Silicon Valley and ran into 3 other guys, highly educated. All 3 of them worked for the Boston Consulting Group. All 3 of them went to Harvard. I said, yeah, well, what are you guys doing here? And they said, well, we want to start a high-tech company. And I said, well, what do you know about high-tech? And they said, well, nothing. And I said, well, I know a little bit about high-tech. And they said, well, why don't you join us? So I did. We got venture financing, and we started a company. 2 years later, we augured it right into the ground. So I was on the streets looking for a job, and I did a little bit of consulting. And during one consulting gig, I ran into this company called Microsoft. And so the more I looked into it, the more I became intrigued because Seattle is home. So I wrote a letter to Bill. And, just my normal letter, seeking employment. Bill gave it to Steve Ballmer, who at the time was in charge of human resources. They invited me up for a round of interviews. Well, actually, a one-on-one interview with Bill. The reason it was one-on-one is because Bill, Mr. Basic, was intrigued by this thing called the HP 250 Basic. I worked for Hewlett Packard, and I was the product manager for this thing called HP 250 Basic. Anyways, Bill, being Mr. Basic, knew everything about it. And so that interview was really not an interview, it was more a lecture, where he was telling me all about the features of HP 250 Basic. So the hour goes by, and he goes, well, thanks for your time. Go back home to San Francisco, and yeah, you might hear from us. Well, a week later, I did. I was employee number 121, okay? And my title was Marketing Manager Special Accounts, and there were 3 special accounts, and these were pretty big accounts. One was IBM, located in Boca Raton. The second was Lifeboat Associates, located in New York. And the third was ASCII Microsoft's exclusive distributor at the time, located in Tokyo. I think it was kind of luck. I mean, did I really know at the time that Microsoft was going to become the behemoth that it is today? Not a clue. I mean, I don't think Bill Gates had a clue. He was doing something that he was just simply passionate about. The thing that intrigued me was the difference with what Microsoft was doing and virtually every other microcomputer software company is Microsoft had multiple product platforms. They were not only doing operating systems, they were doing languages, they were doing productivity tools. I mean, they were doing everything. Virtually every other company was a one-product company. Microsoft was trying to do it all, and that intrigued me. I've always prided myself in being kind of an out-of-the-box, kind of a strategic thinker. And I said, okay, there's a bigger opportunity here at Microsoft that no one is paying attention to. And so I wrote a business plan. I asked Bill for some time to present it. And he said, yeah, sure. I went into his office and I said, okay, Bill, I want to found the international division for Microsoft. And the reason why is because there's a huge opportunity out there. I know because I used to work for a company called Hewlett Packard, which at the time derived 42% of their top line revenues from offshore. Now, Had I done any business internationally before? No. Did I speak a foreign language? No. Here I am asking Bill for $1 million to found the international division. To this day, I do not know why Bill said yes, but he did. He did say yes. And so I was off and running. Well, there are a couple of very early decisions that I think were, again, strategically very important. One, most US-based companies doing business internationally, if they had a subsidiary someplace, the top guy was usually an expat American. And I thought about that and I said, this makes no sense to me. What does an expat American know anything about, the target country? Probably very little. I mean, they don't have the relationships. Maybe they don't even speak the language. Or do they really understand the culture? I made one firm decision. I said we would only hire nationals. If we went to Germany, the Geschäftsführer was Joachim Kempen. If we went to Italy, it was Umberto Paolucci. They're all nationals of their country. They had the relationships, they knew the people, they knew how to go about doing business. From a business standpoint, just having come off of a failed startup, I said, I am never going to fail again. I will do whatever it takes never to fail again. And so every single subsidiary that we started was profitable its first year of operations. Every single one of them. And in 4 years, the international division accounted for over half of Microsoft's profits. Over half. But again, we made a lot of smart decisions from the get-go. We were very early to market with most of our localized languages, and that was also a strategic bet that most of our application competitors did not make. We were early to market, and it has a lot to do with this thing called market preemption. Very early on, I can remember taking customers through, giving them kind of a quick tour of Microsoft, and you'd go through where the engineers, where the developers were writing code, and I'd be wearing a suit or a sport coat with a tie, and they're not. They're also barefoot. I remember writing a memo to Bill saying, come on, we're bringing these customers that are paying us millions of dollars. We at least have to, put proper shoes on our feet. And that went nowhere. But that was part of the culture. If people are really working their tails off and they're sleeping in their offices, running over to, Burgermaster for dinner, that was the environment. The early days of Microsoft. I don't know what it is today, but I know for the entire 10 years that I worked at the company, that work ethic was alive and well. I remember having my third year performance review with Bill, and I said, Bill, I don't know if you realize this, but I've worked for you for 3 years without taking a single day off. And Bill looks up and goes, so what? I've worked for 7 years without taking a single day off. Touche. I've always worked hard. When I retired from Microsoft, what did I do? Well, I thrust myself into the philanthropic space. I have now served on over 100 nonprofit boards. I have founded 22 nonprofits of my own. At one time, I was serving on 37 nonprofit boards concurrently. So I've never been afraid of work. I've never been afraid of investing my time and energy and brain power to accomplish something. It's quite remarkable, when you think about from 1982 when I joined the company to even 1992 when I left the company, I had driven it to our first $1 billion. I think I knew we were onto something probably when Bill was on the front cover of Fortune magazine. I know when we went public, and a lot of people know this story, but Bill artificially just forced the offering price down. He just didn't want a high offering price. So I can't remember what it came out at. I want to say in the teens, 17 or 18, $19, something like that. Shortly after that, we had our first stock split because the stock price was actually going up quite nicely. And I think that first stock split kind of reinforced with me that, okay, maybe we're onto something here. And now, 7 2-for-1s and 2 3-for-2 stock splits later, yeah, it's pretty amazing. I mean, I think we changed the world in much the same way that I would say artificial intelligence is going to change the world yet again. Technology can be used in both good ways and bad ways. When I think back on kind of just productivity tools, whether it's a spreadsheet product or a word processing product, they are there to help you as a human being become more productive, pure and simple. I think artificial intelligence used properly, it's just going to, pull everyone up, and I think very rapidly. I would also view AI as being a tool that is not really going to replace human beings. It's not going to get rid of jobs. I think if anything, it's going to enhance jobs. If anything about Microsoft's culture, and I hope it still is in place today, is you shouldn't be afraid to make mistakes. You should be decisive. You shouldn't be afraid to make mistakes. And there's a saying about the streets are littered with squirrels who couldn't make a decision. So make a decision, and it doesn't have to be the right decision all the time. Charlie Munger had a saying. He said, "It's amazing how many mistakes you can make and still be successful." So, I would say that within a large company environment now, everyone should feel empowered to make decisions. That's the only way the company is going to grow. In fact, shortly after I retired from Microsoft, I said, okay, I need a mission statement. I need a personal mission statement that will provide basically the guiding light for me in terms of what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And that is to marry my passion for things entrepreneurial with things philanthropic in ways that encourage others to do the same. I've been living that ever since I created that mission statement 32 years ago. I always take up things and I always kind of look to excel at whatever that is. And it's everything from martial arts to, I'm a black belt in kind of a secretive form of Kung Fu called Mopayushi, practicing 10 years, 6 days a week. Breakdancing is something that I started when I was 65. I play clarinet, saxophone, flute, ukulele, harmonica. I throw pottery. There's just a lot of kind of different hobbies, okay? That's one thing. Now, I'm 70, almost 76 years old, and I'm pursuing a PhD. I've always wanted to reform our K-12 public education system because it is horribly broken. And I don't think I can do that without some credibility. I'm very serious about it. I study at least 6 hours a day. Microsoft's legacy I think it's one that, they're going to be building platforms in any of these, I'll call them silos, whether it's the gaming silo, whether it's the communication silo, whether it's the productivity tool silo, whatever it is, they're going to be building platforms that will allow just us as users and human beings to become even more productive and have more fun. So I think that's going to be a big part of Microsoft's legacy. And I think the other legacy is it goes back to my kids. Sometimes I think about, okay, what if I were to kick the bucket, tomorrow? What would I want people to remember me by? And I don't know. Part of it I think is he was always willing to put in an honest day's work. So work ethic is part of that. I see in them many things that maybe is part of the fabric that makes me and also makes my wife, Lori. I have no doubt that they will exceed whatever Lori and I have done in our lives. I think we have at least prepared them in a way that allows that to happen.